Hello beautiful people, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I'm the Akonwidocia, and today I want to talk about 5 main things that you should do on payday that will maximize the strength of your money. I know there's a lot of people out there who get paid but they feel like they don't get paid enough, or they just feel like, I don't know if this money is going to pay everything that I need to pay, or they just get burned out. They do have the money but they don't know what to do first with the money. Now stick with me throughout this video and I'll help you do just that. There's just 5 things you need to know or do when you get paid, and let's get into it. Okay, so the very first thing you're gonna need to do is visit your budget book. Now hear me out. If you've been watching my other videos, I stress the fact that visiting your budget book is super important. Like, if there's nothing else you do, please visit your budget book. That's the first thing I advise people to do when they get paid or on payday. Reason being, I know you've already drawn a budget, assuming you already know how to draw a budget. Now for those out there who do not know how to draw a budget, I do have another video, 2 videos actually, that break down how to come up with a budget as a beginner. So I highly recommend you watch that as a reference to this video. When it comes to visiting your budget book, that actually helps you, because then you already have your beautiful plan out. You already know everything you're gonna do the minute you get paid. Now the day you get paid, you have to go back to your budget book and just make sure that those numbers make sense. Maybe you got overpaid, maybe you got underpaid, whatever the case might be. Just visit your budget book to make sure the numbers make sense, essentially. Say they don't make sense, this is where you go in there and do a little bit of an update, or if they do make sense, then you just stick to the budget. So the very first thing you want to do on payday is visit your budget book. Now the second thing you want to do on payday is to deduct your savings, emergency fund, or investments. If you guys want to know more about investments, I am planning on making a whole nother video about investments, because that's a whole different ball game. But if you have a head start on investments already, kudos to you. You do want to deduct your savings first before anything else, just because that releases the stress off you. So when it comes to your savings, I have a specific percentage that automatically goes towards my savings. Now what I did is I just went to my job and told them, hey, I have this specific bank account that I want 10%, 40%, 30%, whatever makes sense to you goes directly into that bank account. What that does is it releases the stress of you having to go back on payday to deduct those savings. The reason why I want to talk about this step is, if you don't have that automatically set up, it's very important that you have that set up, because that just takes the stress away from you. You don't have to worry about it, because in the back of your mind, you already know 10%, 20%, 30% of your paycheck is going directly to your savings. So that's one thing you want to do. Now say you don't have that automatically set up and you want to do it manually, that's perfectly fine. Again, just whatever makes sense to you. Usually nothing less than 10% of your paycheck should usually go towards your savings. So I highly recommend that on payday, that's one of the first things you want to do. After you figured out your budget, just make sure to take out your savings. So the third thing you want to do is consolidate your debt. What I mean by that is pay off your debt. Now this could be in any form or shape. Say you owe somebody, you owe a utility bill, you have credit card debt, just consolidate your debt. Now it's kind of hard when it comes to debt, because you can't necessarily, I know there's certain debt where you can't necessarily just clear it out right off the bat. That's perfectly fine. Something like credit card debt, usually you're required to pay the minimum, depending on however much you have in credit card debt. Now this is the point in payday where you have to take care of that. Say it's not credit card debt and it's a loan or whatever is debt to you, that's a priority on payday. Just make sure you take that out. There's nothing more liberating than knowing you don't owe anybody, or you're in the process of paying off your debt. So that's the third thing you want to do on payday, is to consolidate your debt. The fourth thing you want to do on payday is to pay off your bills. I'm sure you guys are waiting for this, like, what's she talking about? Paying bills will be the first thing I want to do on payday. I put pay off your bills in the 4th place because I felt like the first 3 were more important. Not that they were essentially more important, they just were top of the priority to me personally before paying up the bills. When it comes to paying up your bills, I recommend, because this works for me, that you pay off your bill. Choose a week in the month to pay off your bills in. So for me personally, I have my bills dated as close together as possible. What I mean by that is my bills essentially are within a week. That's from the 20th to the 31st. You know, a week or two is fine, because I know there's certain bills you just can't control. Like if they told you this bill is going to be paid on the 20th, you have to pay it on the 20th. But I know 9 out of 10 times you could always edit that. You could just call them and say, hey, can you get my payments to be on this and that day? Usually they're able to just fix it. If not, that's fine. You could only do what you can do. But I recommend having your bills dated as close together as possible. So on payday, now let's say you get paid every 2 weeks, that's perfectly fine. So your first paycheck could essentially take care of your savings and paying off your debt, or any of the three, and your last paycheck could take care of the point I'm making right now, which is paying off your bills, and the next point I'm going to make. If you get paid weekly, I know this can get like a little tricky, because essentially you're getting a paycheck every Monday or every Friday. That's fine. There's 4 weeks in a month. You could just take 2 weeks of the month and have that into savings and consolidating your debt, and the other 2 weeks paying off your bills. However you mix and match it, just make sure on payday you're putting these 5 things to action. So the 5th point would be to put away a general expense fund. What I mean by that is you do need spending money. You need money for gas, you need money for food, and all of that stuff. So at this point, you've already checked your budget book for updates, you've already put away an emergency fund or savings, you've consolidated any debt you possibly had, and you've paid off your bills. So whatever is left essentially will be your spending money. Now you have to be very wise in how you spend this money, because sometimes you might run short. I'm speaking out of experience. Just make sure you're very tactful about how much am I going to spend on food, how much am I going to spend on groceries, whatever the case might be. Just make sure you have an expense fund. The reason why it's important to have a general expense fund is because if you don't have that, then you're going to find yourself trying to jump into your savings account to get money out of there to use for general spending. Now going back a little bit to what you save, remember how I said you should have a percentage on what you save that makes sense for you. Let's say you save 30% of your paycheck, and that's not realistic to your goal because you only get paid a certain amount and you're short on spending money. You're definitely going to need to grab money from somewhere for general expenses. So just make sure you're saving the right amount that's realistic to you based off what your budget is, and you'll be fine as far as a general expense fund. So just to recap, the 5 things you should do on payday is to check your budget book for update, deduct money for your savings, emergency fund, or investments, consolidate your debt, pay off your bills, and put aside a general expense fund. Now, if you've watched to the end and you found any value whatsoever in what you've watched so far, do me a favor and hit the like button, leave comments down below so I can interact with you guys and know what you want to see more, and definitely turn on your notification button so you get notified when next I post another video. I'll see you guys in another one.